Harry Potter characters in the books versus in the movies. It's 2019, over 11 years since the book release of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and there is hardly a shortage of die-hard Harry Potter fans. At least, that's the glass half full way to look at it. On the other side of the coin, this is just another way of saying that there is hardly a shortage of people who still can't forgive the movie adaptations for being so different than the books. This might seem like a simple thing to get over or not care about, but this is the Potterverse we're talking about. This is straight-up magic created by none other than J.K. Rowling. One does not simply tamper with perfection. The consequences are cruel and eternal. Alas, when the Potter movies got the movie treatment, adhering to the novels 100% would have been impossible, so some minor changes were made. Keep reading to check out Harry Potter. 15 of the biggest differences between characters in the books and movies. 15. You have your mother's eyes. The most important physical element regarding Harry Potter were his eyes. While they weren't vital to plot in terms of helping him fight Voldemort or hunt Horcruxes, they did round out one integral element having to do with his professor nemesis, Severus Snape.
You have your mother's eyes.
When so many people point out the fact that Harry has his mother's eyes, despite the fact that the actors in the movies had eyes that couldn't be more different if they tried, the translation from book to screen is marked from the get-go. Okay, so Daniel Radcliffe allegedly had issues with contacts in the first film. Whatever. At least find an actress playing his mother who has similar eyes. Doesn't that seem logical? 14. The Marauders. When the Marauders map is introduced in the Prisoner of Azkaban movie, it's a neat enough prop to pair with Harry's invisibility cloak. On a more narrative level, though, the Marauders map sets up some solid backstory to not only Harry's dad, but his three best friends, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and the turncoat Peter Pettigrew. Sadly, though, the origins for the map were left on the cutting room floor. Introducing the Marauders could have helped streamline so many elements in the series, but filmmakers clearly thought that doing so would be a waste of time, so it ultimately fell to the wayside. Unfortunately, we'll just have to see how the remake handles them. 13. Barty Crouch's two people. One of the core components of adapting a story is consolidation. Even Game of Thrones, which has the luxury of stretching out its story over a number of episodes, still has to cut things out from the source material. There's just no way around it. So, when Steve Kloves started working on the Goblet of Fire script, consolidation was his best friend. In fact, it showed up here most of all, completing mixing one whole character and essentially morphing him into another. From an audience perspective, this was hardly heartbreaking, considering the fact that neither Bagman nor Crouch were necessarily fan favorites. So, as far as changes go, this one wasn't difficult to swallow. Sometimes, change is totes fine, even when die-hard Potterheads are critiquing from the sidelines. 12. Dudley's deleted redemption. As hateable as Dudley Dursley may be, J.K. Rowling did attempt to give him one single dose of humanity the very last time Harry and readers ever saw him. It was in the Deathly Hallows, when Dudley seems genuinely worried that Harry won't be escaping along with himself and his parents. It does come a bit out of left field, but it was heartfelt. In the movie, however, this scene gets demoted to deleted scene status. Still, though, you may notice that the scene is just as awkward on screen as it was in the book. So, as far as this being a negative change from the book, straight up not including it at all is kind of up in the air. 11. Angry Dumbledore. The way Albus Dumbledore is described in the books versus how he's portrayed on screen varies, to say the least. When Richard Harris played the role, he perfected book Dumbledore's soft-spoken mannerisms and charming personality. However, when Michael Gambon took over, he may have gone a bit overboard. To be fair, Gambon did a wonderful job as Dumbledore, and there are touches of perfection scattered throughout his involvement in the Seat tries. That said, he is the culprit of one of the adaptation's missteps. In the Goblet of Fire, when Dumbledore asks Harry if he put his name into the goblet, he's as soft-spoken as ever. In the movie, however, he seems as though he might rip Harry's head clean off his neck. From an acting perspective, he might have simply been trying something new on for size for the character, but from a reader's perspective, it's flat out incomprehensible. 10. Ginny's personality. When Harry and Ginny end up together in the movies, it sort of makes zero sense. They seem to have nothing in common, they hardly seem to spend much time together, and there honestly seem to be other young women far better suited to match up with someone like Harry. In the books, however, it makes so much more sense. Book Ginny is different. She's more of a rebel, and she's got a much more colorful personality. Had screenwriter Steve Kloves simply given her more to do earlier on, then their relationship might not have seemed so shoehorned. But such is history, and fans pretty much just have to accept what they've been given. Nine. Hermione's hair. Okay, so to be fair, this isn't an end-of-the-world change. It's purely superficial. That said, for the Potterhead purists, this matters, so it's getting covered. In the books, Hermione's hair is distinctly bushy, and though it may not have as much of a mind of its own as Harry's does, it certainly has no shame doing its own thing and defying gravity. In the movies, however, her hairstyle varies quite a bit. In The Sorcerer's Stone, filmmakers clearly seemed to be trying with her hair, but there was no follow-through. By Chamber of Secrets, it was massively toned down, and it became more and more chill as the series proceeded. It wasn't until The Half-Blood Prince, when she's stressed out, does it actually come close to book-accurate hair. But compared to other major changes in the movies, this is one of the tamer ones. 8. Chamber of Secrets 101. In the Chamber of Secrets, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are quick to discover that something is very, very wrong at Hogwarts. There is someone whispering death threats in the walls, there is bloody graffiti all over the halls, and eventually, people start showing up petrified. It's a madhouse. So, on their hunt to hopefully solve the mystery, they end up uncovering some information about this Chamber of Secrets that may or may not exist from Professor Binns, the ghost who teaches history of magic. In the movies, however, seeing as they've never bothered including Binns in the first place, this duty was ultimately passed over to McGonagall, which is totally fine, seeing as literally everyone loves Maggie Smith. Seven. Filch the Squib. Nobody likes Argus Filch. He's the campus narc, the local bully, and the worst curmudgeon in witch and wizard history. Still, though, in the books, he does have sympathy. In the books, it's discovered that Filch is a squib. It's a major bummer, to say the least, and though it's no excuse for being a total d-bag, readers can at least get a better understanding as to why he is the way he is. In the movies, he's just a jerk, that's all. Just a cartoonish, over-the-top hater. 6. The lackluster identity of Mrs. Norris. Speaking of Filch, his pet cat Mrs. Norris is always by his side. In fact, in the Chamber of Secrets, she's the first character to be petrified by the basilisk. That said, though, aside from showing up here and there, her portrayal in the series is significantly different than how she's portrayed in the books. In the books, she's just as bad as Filch. The characters hate her, the readers hate her, and surely the local creatures on campus must hate her as well. She's always on the prowl, helping Filch discover students who are out of bed, In the movies, however, she's just sort of there. She won't necessarily act as a scout for Filch, so as much as clue students in on the fact that he was close by. What's more is that there isn't much continuity with the way she looks. The first 2 films at least tried with her, but later on in the series, when she's even on screen, at least, she could easily just be some random cat. 5. Self-choke. In order to bring back Peter Pettigrew, he's got to make some sacrifice. He has to sacrifice his dignity, his self-respect, and it's about to get gory here, people. His hand. He chants about the flesh of the servant, willingly sacrificed, then hacks off his own hand, letting it drop into the cauldron like seeds for a chia. Once Pet Voldemort is resurrected, he ends up gifting Pettigrew with a silver hand. Only, in the Deathly Hallows, this comes back to haunt him. Before attacking Harry, Harry reminds him that he once spared his life. In doing so, he causes Pettigrew to hesitate, which in turn triggers the enchanted hand to assume he was turning on Voldemort, which ultimately leads to it strangling him as a result. In the movies, he gets knocked unconscious. The end. 4. Beetle Skeeter. How could Rita Skeeter possibly know everything she knows? When she publishes her articles, there is information included that was never disclosed. She's like a fly on the wall, somehow managing to listen in on people's most private secrets, as readers are well aware. Though, she's not a fly, but a beetle. An unregistered animagus, Skeeter can physically transform into a beetle, which ultimately allows her to sneak on people in order to get her big scoop. In the movies, however, this is never touched upon. She's simply a soulless reporter who will stop at nothing for sensationalized news, which is a shame considering the fact that animology had already been touched upon a few times so far in the series up to that point, with McGonagall and Sirius Black. 3. Maybe it's miscasting, maybe it's Maybelline. First of all, Rupert Grint did a great job portraying Ron Weasley. Let's just get that out of the way. Unfortunately, though, apart from the red hair, Grint didn't look an awful lot like the Ron readers were introduced to in the books. One of the major physical traits in Ron Weasley are his freckles. Unfortunately, though, Grint appears to be completely void of them. What's more is that Ron is supposed to be much taller than Ron and Hermione IRL. This isn't the case with Grint. Now, sure, this can definitely be considered nitpicking. But if Lord of the Rings fans can tear apart minor details in Peter Jackson's adaptation, and if Star Wars fans can rip apart how Rian Johnson had Luke Skywalker portrayed in The Last Jedi, then the Potterheads are going to town on these freckles. 2. Slughorn size. One of the more interesting performances in the entire Harry Potter series definitely belongs to Jim Broadbent's interpretation of Horace Slughorn. As it so happened, though, despite selling the role from an acting point of view, some fans argue that he may have been miscast, mostly on account of his looks. When his character is introduced in The Half-Blood Prince, Slughorn is described as being very short, very fat, very old, very bald, and having a mustache that may as well have belonged to a walrus. In the movies, if it's not already obvious with a single glance, Slughorn has none of these things. No, this isn't necessarily an issue of making or breaking a character, but it's certainly a big enough change that fans would notice. 1. Red eyes. Bringing Voldemort to life couldn't have been easy. Still, the filmmakers did a solid enough job, and it certainly didn't hurt having someone like Ralph Fiennes in the role. Sadly, though, there was one major component left out of the films that was a major shift from the books: his red eyes. In the movies, they're pretty much stark white, if not pale blue, pretty much proving that filmmakers honestly might have punked readers by changing all of the vital eye colors and major characters to some other random shade. Harry's eyes are green, Voldemort's eyes are red, Mrs. Norris's eyes are yellow. The makeup department just went full anarchy when it came to contacts, clearly. Friends, which information is the best in this video? Wrote in the comment box. If you like this video, give a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if our channel is not yet subscribed. Also keep the bell button on. Thanks for watching.